Callie, you all set?
I'm ready.
All right, ready. Want to call to order the Reno City Planning Commission Wednesday, August 2nd meeting. And would Commissioner Snyder lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Callie, can I have a roll call, please?
Absolutely. Mark Johnson,
Here.
Ed Hawkins,
Here.
John Marshall, absent at this time. Paul Olivas, absent at this time. Troy Schneider,
Here.
Kevin Weisky,
Here.
Peter Gower.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to public comment. This item is for either public comment on any action item or for any general public comment. And I do have 3 public comment cards related to this general public comment. The first one is from William Puchert. I apologize if I got the name
Oh,
wrong.
no, that's okay. It's pretty close, actually. Good evening, Reno Planning Commissioners. My name is William Poocher, and I reside at 2725 Everett Drive in Reno. There is a partially built illegal billboard that has been constructed behind my home in an adjacent parcel of Mountain View Cemetery. It was built in the middle of the night in mid-February without a permit, and we were able to get a stop order to halt its construction. However, this blight has been staring us in the face through our living room window and our backyard patio, as well as obstructing our scenic views for nearly 6 months now. I have seen the posts of the sign shown here sway back and forth in the wind, and you can tell by these flimsy pins holding up the sign that it's not structurally sound, making it a hazard not only to me and my neighbors, but the thousands of passing motorists on I-80. The illegal sign was built along with 2 other illegal signs in the area, in my Northwest Reno neighborhood, by Jeffrey and Alan Harrison of Strict Scrutiny Media, with the intention of challenging Reno and Washoe County's sign code. They have challenged the city of Reno in federal court case over those 2 illegal signs and have ignored citations from Washoe County for the one behind my home, since it lies in a parcel that is in an unincorporated island and thus in Washoe County's jurisdiction. In their most recent appeal in that case, the illegal sign perpetrators have stated they wanted to build up to 9 signs along the I-80 corridor. Although this photo is just a conceptualization, it represents mine and my neighbor's greatest fear if they get their way. One of my Everett Street neighbors' home appraisal resulted in a $60,000 devaluation since the illegal sign has gone up. And remember, most people's homes represent the single largest investment in their lives. My neighbors and I are victims of this ongoing dilemma and likely will have to wait indefinitely to receive relief, as the attorney for the illegal sign perpetrators said that he will take this case all the way up to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, which follows their past pattern of litigation in Oregon and California municipalities. And Mountain View Cemetery and the local Oddfellows Lodge continue to enable this illegal activity by leasing their land to these clowns. In a sense, my neighbors and I have become victims in the front lines of the battle of billboard proliferation in this community. That's why I stand here today to urge you to approve the draft billboard ordinance before you, which reflects the will of Reno voters who passed it by a ballot referendum by a wide majority 17 years ago. It's important that the intent of the voters remain intact and without any loopholes. No more billboards, period. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Next comment card I have for general public comment is Patricia Puchert.
You got it right that time.
Thank you.
Good evening, thank you.
My son pretty much described the problems that we have at the house. I own the house. Um, I can't tell you in the last 6 months how hard it's been. I mean, I really hate to go out on my deck. I never know if one of those rods is going to fly out and hit us, hit one of my neighbors, and certainly the cars below. Uh, it's just been a terrible situation. I fear for our safety. I really do. The scenic part, of course, is part of this too. But the safety is on my mind most of all. And I agree with my son that we hope that you will go along with that initiative that was passed by the city of Reno supporting no more billboards. This billboard was done illegally. It was built in the middle of the night. They literally came in the middle of the night, did it. The next morning we woke up to see this monstrosity. I can't tell you what our lives have been since. So I thank you for your consideration, and I would hope that you would understand that we do not want more billboards. Thank you.
Thank you. Next comment card I have is from Fred Steinman and Julie Hunter, but I don't see Julie here.
No
Fred, it's
Julie
just you.
tonight. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Planning Commission. For the record, my name is Fred Steinman. I'm the Secretary for the Nevada chapter of the American Planning Association, as well as an Assistant Research Professor with the University Center for Economic Development at the University of Nevada, Reno. It's my pleasure to present each one of you, and hopefully you have in front of you, a copy of the recently published Nevada Planning Guide, dated February 2017, that was just recently completed by the Nevada chapter of the American Planning Association in partnership with faculty from the University Center for Economic Development. The mission of the Nevada chapter of the American Planning Association is to provide elected and appointed officials, government executives, staff, and members of the public various professional training and development opportunity when it comes to general planning in the state of Nevada. That marries nicely with the mission of the Nevada Leadership Program, the program I run at the University Center for Economic Development, which is intended to provide similar professional development and training opportunities for those interested in learning more about the nuts and bolts of government administration in the state of Nevada. The planning guide is the culmination of about a year and a half worth of work. We had 8 full-time volunteer writers, myself one of them, Julie Hunter the other, who apologizes for not being here tonight as something came up. The guide itself is divided into 7 individual chapters ranging from the basics of land use planning to financing local government, Nevada open meeting laws, state code of administrative ethics, and other related topics. Currently, in partnership with the chapter, the University Center for Economic Development is making the rounds around the state, providing this guide printed and bound at no charge to every planning commission, city council, and county commission in the state, as well as a number of school districts and other public boards. We also offer the planning guide for free online on both the chapter's website and the website of the Nevada Leadership Program. So we do encourage people who are interested in learning more about planning and how planning functions in the state of Nevada to visit both websites and download and print as many copies as they want. In addition to the planning guide in front of you, there's also additional material on the chapter in general about the University Center for Economic Development and information regarding upcoming professional development opportunities with both the center and the chapter, including the chapter's annual conference, which will be October 1 through 4 in Carson City, and the upcoming 2017 Global Climate Change Summit that the Nevada Leadership Program and the University Center for Economic Development is hosting. Again, on behalf of the chapter as well as the University Center for Economic Development, it's my pleasure to present to you this guide, and I hope that you will use it and learn from it as you continue your service as members of the Reno City Planning Commission. Thank you.
Well done, Fred. Thank you. Appreciate that. Any other public comment on item 3 here, general public comment? Seeing none, I am going to close public comment. And we will move on to Approval of the minutes. Our first set of minutes is for our regular meeting on June 29th. We'll entertain a motion.
Commissioner Weisky, so moved.
Have a motion
Commissioner Hawkins, second.
and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Abstain.
Commissioner Schneider
Johnson.
abstain. Sorry.
So
You were here
Commis-
for that one.
I'm not sure that we have the votes to
Oh, that's
approve
right.
those then, because
Okay.
we have Weisky, Gower, Hawkins in favor, and 2 abstentions. I think we need 4. So that's coming back to us. Okay? We'll try the next one then. How about the June 5th meeting?
Commissioner Weisky, so moved.
Okay, I have a motion
Commissioner Hawkins, second.
and a second. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Commissioner Schneider abstain.
Okay, we got that one. Thank you. City Council liaison reports.
I have nothing tonight from Councilwoman Burkus.
Public hearings, item number 6. Our first one is case number LDC 17-00071, the Greens at Town Center. And we will begin with a presentation from the applicant's representative. Welcome. You'll have 15 minutes to tell us about the project or the tentative map.
Hopefully, I won't need 15 minutes. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, my name is Carl Matzel. I'm the representative for the Greens in Town Center. I'm here with Mr. Pollock tonight, the manager. The property's located in Town Square in the town center at Somerset. So here's the rec building. The other 2 buildings are the commercial buildings. To the north, you have the park, and to the west, you have the golf course. It has a master plan designation of special planning area, McQueen Neighborhood Plan. The site is within the Somerset Plan Development Zone PD. And here's the site. And the land use is Town Center Commercial, which is right there. The request tonight is for a development of 10 single-family townhome units. The applicant is not requesting a special use permit or amendment to the PD, only as stated above, a request for a tentative map for 10 townhomes, which is a permitted use within the PD at the Town Center Commercial. There are 10 two-bedroom units, four of them which are the B units, which have tandem parking garages, 6 A units which have single garage parking. The remaining parking will be on site. The building covers around 9,900 square feet. We're allowed 10,000 square feet or 30%. The driveways and the walk cover about 21% of the site. We have 23 spaces, which is adequate to serve the site. We have open spaces of about 50.3%. A minimum in the PD is 15% will be landscaped. The units are 3 stories and vary in height and size. The Unit A's are about 2,054 square feet. There's 6 of those. And the Unit B's are about 2,330 square feet, and there's 4 of those. The architecture is consistent with the existing commercial buildings and the rec center with the vertical and horizontal elements, horizontal lap siding, and rock veneer. Let me look there. There they are. The height of the building varies from about 42 feet on this side from that gable to 45 feet, about 45 to that one. The PD allows up to 5 stories with no height restrictions, and we are proposing 3 stories. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Do I sit down?
Yep, we'll get a presentation from staff, and then if we have any questions, we'll call you back up. Thanks very much. Kyle, welcome.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, Mr. Chairman. Kyle Chisholm, Assistant Planner for the record. Carl did a pretty good overview of this project. A few things I'd like to clarify. He mentioned the parking. There's actually 23 spaces on site. We discussed that a little bit in the staff report, and 30 spaces would actually be required based on the code requirements. The PUD handbook defaults back to Reno Municipal Code Title 18, so it would actually be required 30 spaces, but the handbook does allow for a ITE manual study in which that would need to be provided at the building permit phase, and that is actually condition number 6 in regards to that. And the height, mass, and form of the proposed structures. Let me put that back up there. Pretty dark. It's pretty dark, but
Kyle, can you flip that
Yep.
too? Yeah.
so those are the east and west elevations there, which would be the front and rear of the building, essentially. You can see they provide quite a bit of articulation around all sides of the building, both vertical and horizontal. So it does meet that requirement of the PUD handbook. Also, it's well, as Carl stated, it's well below the allowed height, which there is no allowed height, but it has a maximum of 5 stories. This comes in at 3 stories. So it's well within the PUD requirements. Also, just want to clarify that the compatibility with the surrounding land uses in this area. This town center was originally developed for high intensity walkable type of area, and so this fits within that element of the handbook, and the final design would need to be approved by the architectural guideline committee before any building permits approved. So they'll have to look at this and approve it again before anything's finalized. Just one more clarification on the background of this commercial town center. It was originally approved, and traffic and access was looked at with regards to 72 proposed units within this town center. There's currently 0 been built to date. So, and this project is proposed to have 10 units, so still within that allowed number of originally approved units. That being said, the Neighborhood Advisory Board was in general support of the project, and we received no emails or phone calls regarding it. So if you have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
All right. Thanks very much, Kyle. We'll get back to you on the questions. This is a public hearing item, and we do have public comment associated with it. At this point, I will see if there is any public comment.
We don't have any forms submitted for this item.
No forms, no one rushing to the podium. We'll close public comment. Commissioners, disclosures. Commissioner Hawkins.
Commissioner Hawkins, I'm familiar with the site.
Commissioner Johnson, no disclosures.
Commissioner Gower, also familiar with the site.
Commissioner Schneider, also familiar with the site.
Commissioner Weisky, I rode out to the site.
Thank you. Commissioners, questions, discussion.
Motion.
Commissioner Weisky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can we get the applicant's representative or the applicant up here, please? I'd like to ask you a question or two about the parking. Do you have any information that you can share with me and the rest of the commission regarding the information from ITE and on the parking and how that will be a benefit to the existing businesses and surrounding neighbors?
I can share with you the ITE rates that I used to develop the parking. I'm not sure I can answer the second part of that question.
Okay?
So the ITE rates for,
Carl, can you speak into the microphone, please?
oh,
Thank you.
the ITE rates for a residential condo townhouse are 1.4 spaces per unit. That includes guest parking. The reason we use 23 in there is because in the PD handbook, under the parking for the town center commercial, the condominium rates was a little bit higher, and we wanted to come up and try to match those in the townhomes. So that's why the ITE rates for this would be 14. To compare it to what the condominiums were, they'd be 21, and then to compare it to what the townhomes would be with on-street parking would be 23.
Okay.
So it's consistent with the handbook, but in the handbook, on page, I don't know. I put this together so it would be fast. Now I can't find anything.
All right, take your time.
So in the PD handbook, on page 216, you have parking requirements for town center. And in the staff report, this is what we used. It says, available from ITE, other nationally accepted authority, parking data can be submitted to the administrator. Common parking lots shall have more than 5 spaces in, blah, blah, blah. So if you go up here to the condominiums, that's 21. If you go to the townhouses, you go to city code, and city code has two items in there, one on-street parking, one off-street parking. We meet the on-street parking requirement at 23. So this is 21, this is 23, ITE is 14, so we designed it for 23 spaces, if that makes any sense.
Okay, thank you. Kyle? I know you inherited this project, but I'm sure you did your homework.
Kyle Chisholm, Assistant Planner for the record.
Thank you. Did you verify these numbers for parking?
I did verify so as you see here under the townhouse parking requirements, it is based on city code. It says right here in the first sentence. So I looked at city code. City code requires 30 spaces.
Okay.
Okay. That can be decreased with a suitable and acceptable study based on the ITE manual.
Okay.
So right now, as it sits, it doesn't necessarily meet code, but it has the
option
of the ITE manual study, which takes into consideration times of day, different elements.
Okay. All right.
And Janelle will add.
Go ahead. Welcome, Janelle.
Janelle Thomas, Acting Senior Civil Engineer. So I'll add on to what Kyle just stated, is that he reviewed the city code ordinance and the handbook ordinance for the parking. I have since reviewed the ITE information that has been presented by the applicant, and it does meet the standard of the practice. And so I confirmed that those numbers were appropriate for this particular use.
Thank you, Janelle.
You're very welcome.
Mr. Chairman, I have no further questions.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? Discussion? If none, how about a motion?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Weisky, in the case of number LDC 17-00071, the Greens at Town Center, based upon compliance with the applicable findings, I move to approve the tentative map subject to conditions, and I can make the findings applicable.
Okay, thank you very much. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Commissioner Hawkins, second.
Okay, you jumped in there. All right, have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We will jump down on our agenda then to item 6.2. This is a text amendment 17-00007 off-premise advertising displays. And I believe Ms. Hanson is stepping up to the podium to give us a presentation.
Thank you very much. Claudia Hanson, Planning Manager for the record. So a few of you have seen billboards before, some of you have not, so I will give you just a very brief history on our on our billboard ordinance over the past 17 years or so. So starting off with what are billboards? We have off-premise advertising and on-premise advertising. Off-prem advertising are signs or advertising for promoting goods or services which are not principally available on the site where the sign is located. So these are the larger, typically larger, some are smaller, but the larger ones that you see along the freeway or on arterials that are advertising items that aren't associated with a store or a business or a use on the parcel where the sign is located. On-premise advertising is a sign or advertising promoting goods or services which are principally available on the site where the sign is located. Tonight we are not talking about on-prem signs. So we're not talking about the Grand Sierra, we're not talking about Wild Orchid, we're not talking about any of the other signs that are associated with specific businesses in town. We're only talking about off-prem advertising, the ones on the freeway, on arterials that we see around town. In November of 2000, the total number of billboards was capped within the city of Reno through a voters initiative. So at that time, we had an inventory done, and we've capped the number of boards that were established at the time that voters initiative went into place. That number has increased due to annexations. Obviously, if we annex land from the county that has billboards, those come in and increase our inventory. In October of 2012, the City Council adopted an ordinance that allows digital billboards. At the same time, City Council adopted a moratorium that prohibited digital billboards. We were aware at the time that action allowing digital billboards was going to be challenged in court. So City Council wanted to establish that we had the ordinance in place, we wanted to review the ordinance, most likely through the court process. And so they, at that time, did not allow digital billboards. So at no time have digital billboards ever been allowed to be constructed within the city of Reno. It was either banned or there's been a moratorium. So in no time has there ever been any assurance that digital billboards would be allowed in the city of Reno. In 2016, the Nevada Supreme Court affirmed the city's digital billboard ordinance, but shortly thereafter, the City Council directed staff to go back and review the ordinance to make sure it's really what was the best plan for the future of the city of Reno and what meets our goals. Within that time, we've had the Reimagine Reno project almost completed. You're all very familiar with that. We've had ULI come in, we've had the downtown plan, lots of community outreach and public input on what we want for the vision for the future of the city of Reno. The moratorium that I mentioned that was put in place in 2012 is still in place. It has never lapsed. So as I mentioned, digital billboards have never been allowed within the city of Reno. So as I mentioned, City Council asked staff to go back and look at the ordinance. We've gone back to City Council twice now to present the ordinance, what's in there, where digital is allowed, where static boards are allowed. And at their last meeting in June, City Council directed staff to bring back an ordinance that removes the wording that would have allowed digital billboards within the city of Reno. So we are now reversing the ordinance that was sort of tentatively adopted in 2012 that went through the court process and has had a moratorium on it since then. So council has asked staff to draft that ordinance to remove digital billboards from any potential in the future. And also we have a banking system in place right now that was put in place about 2002 that if a board is taken down, if an off-prem board is taken down, they can what's called bank that board. So you can take it down from one place, put it into a banking system. Depending on when the board came down, those are available for either 15 or 3 years, depending on when they were put into the bank. And then you would be able to relocate that board at a later time in a conforming location. City Council has directed staff to also in the draft ordinance close that banking system. So no longer would any billboard be allowed to be placed in that banking system. Any of the boards that are currently the proposal from council, any of the boards that are in the bank now would be able to be relocated, meeting spacing criteria and zoning requirements. That number of banked receipts is also being challenged in court right now, and that will work its way through the process and not really something to consider from tonight's ordinance. All of the same spacing criteria would remain in place with this draft ordinance. All the zoning stays the same, the spacing criteria for static boards. It's just really closing the banking system, the ability to bank boards, and to remove the wording that would have allowed digital billboards. I believe that covers everything I needed to cover with you. Let me just double check my notes. Yes, that is everything I needed to cover. I am available for questions, and I know you have quite a bit of public comment for tonight as well.
Okay. So before we get to questions and public comment, I suspect there may be some disclosures on this one. Commissioner Weisky, do you want to start us off?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have received and read several emails from the community regarding this item.
Commissioner Schneider, as did I.
Commissioner Yauer also received read emails and had some correspondence.
Commissioner Johnson received emails and phone call.
Commissioner Hawkins received several emails.
Okay, thank you very much. At this point, I'm going to open public comment, and just a reminder that if you have a public comment, please fill out one of these request to speak comment forms that Callie has over there. And I have a number of forms. This first stack that I have is folks who do not wish to make a statement. So if you hear your name and you have changed your mind and you do want to make a statement, please indicate so. But at this point, you have indicated that you do not. The first one I have is Isabella Racinos is in opposition to the text amendment. Sarah McDaniel is in opposition and has stated this issue has been in the hands of the decision by City Council revising descriptions, meanings, and deadlines for over 17 years as the lifeblood of our city, connecting cities and communities from coast to coast. Digital billboards and billboard advertising in general are needed in delivering affordable advertisements to small, medium, and large businesses. Todd Smith is in opposition. Vanessa Smith is in opposition. Rosemary Gerpide is in favor. And Neil Johnson is in opposition. The next comment card I have is from John Hara, who wishes to make a statement. And just a reminder to the speakers to be respectful of each other, and you will each have 3 minutes. When you hear a beep, it'll be at first at 30 seconds, then you'll hear the beep at 3 minutes. So John, welcome.
Hi. For the record, John Hara. Well, we all know how scenic Nevada feels. And we know in 2000 how voters of Reno voted. And we know that in 2011, Scenic Nevada had a survey done, and that 55% of Reno voters felt that the Reno City Council should not allow digital billboards. What we didn't know is where people stand on that now, several years later. So what we did was we conducted a polling through Public Policy Polling, which is a credible agency, and that occurred on April 6th through 7th. It was a phone survey of 717 Reno voters with a margin of error of 3.7%. It was bipartisan, Republicans and Democrats, pretty much equally represented. It was broad-based, men, women. It was diverse with a number of different ethnic groups as well. And this is a photo of Reno's Western Gateway right now. So this is what people see when they come here. So I'm going to go here in order of importance, least important. So if you take a look at it right here, this is the breakdown of it, but this is the summary of how people responded to this poll. So digital billboards make Reno a less attractive place to live and visit. Well, what used to be 55% is now closer to, or is 70%. Here's an interesting one. How concerned are you that new billboard construction will decrease property values in Reno? 74% of voters polled believe that this is an issue, which it is. It's proven that actually billboards near your property decrease your property values. Do you think the current city council should start enforcing the ban on new billboard construction or not? 78%. These are huge numbers, really, in terms of polls. Would you object to seeing a billboard outside your home or office window or not? Yeah, this is a big one too. 80% feel that this is an issue. Nobody wants to see a billboard outside of their house or their window. It detracts, it takes away from your property values, and it mars your viewscapes. And I don't have a picture of it, but what I always like to point to is a photo of the billboard outside of Lavender Ridge on Mayberry and 4th, if you guys have seen that, or take a look at that one of these days as you're driving by there. It's a real egregious example of that, a billboard outside of your residence. Finally, this is interesting too. How concerned would you be about traffic safety and distracted driving if the Reno City Council allowed digital billboards on our city streets and highways? Well, surprisingly enough, 83% of Reno voters feel that safety is a huge issue here. Anyway, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And the next comment speaker form I have is from Mark Cording, please, followed by Ma Strongest. Matt Strongest, I'm sorry. I went like an H. That didn't make any sense. Okay.
All right.
Welcome.
Good evening. For the record, Mark Cording. What comes to mind right off the bat is the first two people who spoke about the illegal billboard that got put up outside of their home. I'm in the billboard industry, and when someone does something like that, which this group is doing, it reflects terribly on our industry and us. I'm a small businessman, work for a very small company. We've been in the Reno area for on and off for 28 years doing billboards. I'm responsible for this small area, and I look at each one of my billboards as a business. I have to generate revenue for it. I have to abide by all the rules and regulations, taxes on it, proper inventory, et cetera. I have to work within the regulations that are there. And when someone posts an illegal board, it makes my life much more difficult. It makes all of our lives difficult for those who are in the industry, just like it would be for any other business if somebody isn't permitted and running that. So I have a lot of sympathy for those people. It's the wrong thing to do, and it reflects poorly on our industry. Additionally, I believe there was a mention that we've been dealing with this issue for 17 years through various city councils who created some sort of relationship with bank permits. It's a very involved, very heavily layered issue. And from my perspective, I am in opposition. I feel that we run these things as a business, and if we legitimately follow the rules and the regulations, we should be able to operate as a business. There's a lot of misinformation that gets put out to the public. With all due respect to John, we could probably create some polls and questions that would skew things in a completely different direction. I'm not discounting anything that he said, I may be discounting to the degree that he says it. That's his job as part of Scenic Nevada, and so I take that with a grain of salt to some degree. I believe that we should be able to utilize what was negotiated prior. The judge, the courts will determine really which direction we get to go with that. I notice I'm still at 3 minutes. I'm not going to take it all, but as a small businessman in the city of Reno, I work as hard as I can within the rules, within the regulations to do what's right for the city and the community. I feel what we offer is a valid service to the community if it's done within the parameters of what we're supposed to operate within. And I think we should be free to do that as a business as long as we abide by the rules and the regulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. All right, next speaker I have is Matt Strongest, followed by Sally Kinter, please.
Hello, Matt Strophus. I apologize for the bad handwriting. Big
And I'm a
hands,
bad
small
reader too,
pans.
so yeah.
They've never worked for me. I'm the Vice President of Lamar Advertising. I'm here to represent Lamar as well as fellow industry members that could not make it tonight. Excuse me. I could spend 3 minutes talking about the attributes outdoor, the positives, what we do, how we do it, but I believe we're beyond that at this point. Simply, I want to talk to you as a businessman that has 15 employees, some of which you're going to hear from tonight, some of which you couldn't make tonight because they have family obligations. You know, the truth is that my company and our company invested in Reno because we believed in Reno, what Reno had, the growth opportunity, and what we could bring to Reno. Over the last year and a half, we've donated hundreds of thousands in public service. But more importantly, we on a daily basis help out members of the local business community of Reno. We are a positive contribution to Reno and its businesses, hands down. So all I'm asking for today is a little discourse, a little communication. The information that's in front of us is antiquated. It's either 17 years old or 5 to 10 years old. Let's put a committee together. Let's get some communication together. Let's get some leaders from both sides and see if we can find a way where the outdoor community is not one of diminished return for a lifetime. Because what's in front of you today has attributes in it that don't just limit growth. It makes us a diminishing return each and every year. For a company and a business that adds to the value of the businesses in this community, I think we deserve a little more communication. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Sally Kinter, please, followed by Greg Wilson.
Good evening. I just wanted to say I do support billboards in Reno. I do work for Lamar Advertising, and we help a lot of businesses in town, small mom and pops to larger casinos. And not only do we support businesses, we support our family. So I just wanted to let you know that I do support the billboards in Reno. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. Greg Wilson, please. And following Greg will be Trey Abney.
I just wanted to say that I support the billboard community, and it's really good for the economy, and it does a lot of good for the local community.
Okay. Thank you very much, Greg. Trey Abney. Next up will be Sev Carlson.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Good to see you all. For the record, Trey Abney representing the Reno Sparks Chamber of Commerce. I can't stand up here tonight and tell you where digital billboards should be, specifically parcel by parcel. But I can tell you that the vast majority of our membership consists of small business owners for whom advertising is vitally important to their success and sustainability. We're not talking about the Walmarts and the large multinational corporations that can buy TV time, during the Super Bowl, during popular TV shows. But we're talking about in a world of ever shortening attention spans. It's increasingly difficult to break through the clutter and create a compelling message. Business owners rely on a variety of ways to communicate to current and future consumers, and billboards provide a viable and immediate means to do that. We know that in this community, over 200 small businesses currently use billboards. And those billboards help garner attention, they drive a unique message, they increase employment opportunities, and they create revenue for the city of Reno that then the city council can use for other needed services that we have in this city. Now, we are not talking about here a decision between allowing a digital billboard on every parcel in town or completely eliminating them altogether. I think there is a reasonable approach here to allow this industry to modernize, to not tell Henry Ford, nope, we're going to stick with the horse and buggy. You cannot modernize your industry. We can tell them there's a way to modernize, there's a way to communicate, and yes, use digital billboards for public safety purposes and other means. I think we can all sit down, and the chamber is certainly committed to doing that with the industry, with Scenic Nevada, with everybody that's interested in this, to say, let's put some reasonable regulations and limitations on this technology, but we think it's an important one to, again, allow small businesses. You're talking about small mom and pop businesses that use this means of communication in order to drive customers into their doors, drive tax revenue, and put food on the table for their families. And I think they should be represented here tonight as well. Thank you very much for your time, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Sev Carlson, followed by Nicholas Priscilla. Sev, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, Sev Carlson with the law firm of Kempfer Kroll here in Reno on behalf of Lamar. I think for the record, it's important, I need to point out a disagreement we have on the staff report and with Ms. Hansen's presentation. I think there's a big distinction to be made between allowing billboards to be constructed versus processing of applications for digital billboards. Ms. Hansen intimated that in the city of Reno, construction has never been allowed. Lamar would respectfully disagree with that position. When the city council in 2012 passed the digital ordinance, that authorized construction. It gave the industry a right to build digital billboards. Now, with its moratorium in 2012, it indicated that applications for a digital billboard would not be processed, but the right to construct was never taken away. I think that's an important legal distinction that we need to put on the record. Additionally, with respect to the survey that was referenced, I think one question that wasn't asked, but it's important for you to consider, it's important for the citizens of Reno to consider, of if you don't want digital billboards, are you willing to pay for breaking that promise that was made by the city council in 2012 at the taxpayer's expense? There are two ongoing lawsuits with respect to the 2017 moratorium that the city council adopted, one filed by Scenic Nevada and one by Lamar. They're in different stages. There was an order today that Scenic Nevada will certainly tell you is in their favor by eliminating a bulk of bank receipts that were issued from 2000 to 2012. There will likely be appeals of that order. In the Lamar case, Lamar successfully obtained a preliminary injunction against the city of Reno, forcing the city to continue allow banking of billboards and to not allow banked receipts to expire during the pendency of the litigation. What we're asking for is what Mr. Strofe has talked about. Let's have a discussion. We don't need a rush to judgment. From 2007 through 2012, the city took a painstaking process in developing what was ultimately the digital ordinance. When a lawsuit was filed, the city decided, let's put a moratorium in place. Let's use that same wise decision of putting a moratorium in place when there's ongoing litigation rather than cutting off our nose to spite our face. If we move forward with an extreme measure at this point in time, the city may actually be handcuffed in trying to ultimately resolve this situation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Nicholas, followed by Lori Ray, please.
Good evening. My name is Nick Probilla. I'm account executive for Lamar Outdoor. I just want to speak a little bit how I help businesses big and small in our community help advertise for their business. So you guys have heard a little bit. Again, we've worked, me personally, I work with companies as big as a pepper mill and as little as a farmer's market that's going to be doing a digital board to help promote people out to Fallon. So as far as me working with my clients, those are my clients, and I know them on a personal level. I know about their kids, their family, and they know about mine. So I take a lot of value in that. And Lamar shares a lot of those same values, you know, the family aspect of that. So I am in favor of billboards in our community, and I think they serve a great purpose to continue to help Reno grow and help out the small businesses up and down our community. So thank you.
Nick, thank you very much. Lori Ray, followed by Coletta Dwyer, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Lori Ray, and I'm here on behalf of Scenic Nevada. So we're here tonight in support of the text amendment before you to ban new billboards, both digital and standard ones. We've emailed you a letter and a petition signed by about 500 people with their comments, and we've hoped you've had a chance to look at those comments. They're important. Just want to say a couple things right off the bat. Billboards are banned in many communities across the country and in 4 states, Maine, Alaska, Hawaii, and Vermont. And their business community does not suffer for the lack of billboards, and they have thriving tourist economies. Also want to say that we're not rushing to judgment here. Scenic Nevada has been working on this for a long time, and most recently in the last couple of years, talking to the community, the council members, business leaders, and have gotten their support for this ban that's before you today. So reimagine Reno with fewer billboards. Might be hard at the moment because there are about 182 existing billboards that won't be affected by the proposed changes in the billboard ordinance. And they will remain in place as long as the sign owners maintain them. No one's taking anybody's food off the table here. But if there weren't any, or at least a lot fewer, we think it would be an immense improvement aesthetically for the city of Reno. If you recommend approval tonight, it will be the first step towards a more beautiful city, one that we can all be proud of, where scenic beauty is prized over the demands of the billboard industry, which for far too long has gotten away with erecting new billboards, despite a vote of the people banning them 17 years ago. Today, Scenic Nevada comes armed with the knowledge that the courts, the Reno City Council, and a majority of Reno voters want you to approve these billboard ordinance changes. The ban approved by over 32,700 voters in 2000 says simply, the construction of new off-premises advertising displays, billboards is prohibited, and the city of Reno may not issue permits for their construction. That's it. It was never a cap. It was always a ban. And this proposed text amendment, which reflects the city council's new billboard policy, says that as well. It says the city shall not issue any permits authorizing the construction of any new permanent off-premises advertising displays. The text does not prohibit advertising. It does not require anyone to take a billboard down. It does not stop local business from advertising on billboards. It does not prohibit digital on-premise signs. What it does is enforce the will of the people who cast their ballots 17 years ago to stop the new construction of billboards. Those who want to advertise will have ample opportunity, but as property redevelops, leases are terminated, and disaster strikes, billboards will come down, which is what we're going for. That was what the goal of the ballot initiative. Fewer billboards will lead to a more scenic and attractive city. Clutters reduce, aesthetics improve, commercial areas are revitalized, and all this leads to increased property values, economic vitality, and improved quality of life for both residents and merchants. I made it. Please recommend approval. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lori. Coletta, followed by Mark Ray.
Thank you for this opportunity. Coletta Dwyer. My last name's a little difficult to pronounce. So
I'm
just
for about 10 tonight on the last name, so.
No worries. I just want to clarify that I am in favor of billboards. I think I checked the wrong box on my document there. I'm with Lamar Advertising. I've been in the advertising sales world for 15 years. 13 years of that was selling advertising for the Reno Gazette-Journal. So selling against outdoor. And 2 years of that has been with Lamar Advertising. And I can tell you from experience that bar none, outdoor advertising is the most viable source of advertising for our small businesses and large businesses. As a matter of fact, I took the leap to outdoor advertising because I was encouraged by my clients who used to advertise with me at the newspaper, but also did some outdoor advertising. And outdoor advertising was so successful for them, they actually encouraged me to move over to Lamar Advertising. So, best decision I've ever made. In my opinion, barring billboards in this community, a growing community, will be detrimental to businesses and to this community in general. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mark Ray?
Thank you, Mark Ray. I'm an attorney at 608 Lander Street here in Reno. I am a small businessman, and I represent Scenic Nevada in its litigation with Lamar. Make no mistake about it, what the billboard industry wants to do is expand billboards in the city of Reno, notwithstanding the fact that the law in Title 18, Chapter 16 of the Reno Municipal Code says clearly and simply, construction of new off-premises advertising displays / billboards is prohibited, and the city of Reno shall not issue permits for their construction. In the face of that law, passed by 57% of the voters in the year 2000, the billboard industry here wants to expand the number of billboards in our community, and they want communication because we're not communicating with them well enough. I think it's a very simple message. The people of the city of Reno do not want billboards. And as the lawyer representing Scenic Nevada, as I've said before, there are hundreds of communities that appear to like billboards, like Oakland and New Jersey, places in New Jersey. They seem to like them, and Las Vegas. There's certainly many places where people for Lamar can go and make advertising dollars, as this lady has just said, without coming to a place that doesn't want them, and the people have spoken that they don't want them. And we're asking you tonight, please, gentlemen, and the city council is saying to you, the days when the city council, the old city council, was willing to play footsie with the billboard industry are gone. The new city council recognizes that the people have voted that they don't want any more billboards. Now, this ordinance that you're presented with, gentlemen, is very well written. It's well conceived. It follows exactly what the city council wants to see in an ordinance. And it's being proposed to you almost without exception. The only thing against it is that it's against billboards from the people in the billboard industry. That has nothing to do with the issue. The issue is, what is the appropriate ordinance that should be adopted for the city of Reno? The city council's direction is clear in that regard. Now, I know from comments by Mr. Abney, Mr. Strophus, Mr. Corning, and a couple of others that they're concerned about business being generated in the city of Reno by billboards. And that's certainly the choice of the people of the city of Reno to decide that the ugliness, the blight, and the lowering of property values and community, scenic beauty that comes with billboards is a price they're not willing to pay. We're just not willing to pay that price for a few shekels that someone can make on some advertising. We're not willing to do that. Please honor that request from the people, that we don't want them in our town. These people can go many places and build billboards that are happy to have them. They don't have to be here. So, finally, please note, chapters 405 and 410 of Nevada Revised Statutes say that billboards are a public nuisance. It's in the same category of Nevada statutes where auto junkyards are regulated. So please understand what a nuisance they really are, and please adopt the proposed text amendment. Thank you.
Okay, Mark, thank you very much. That is the last comment card that I have. Before I close public comment, I'll ask if anyone else wishes to make a comment. Seeing none, I will close public comment, and I will bring it back to the commission for questions. Who'd like to start us off? Commissioner Weisky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will. I have two questions for staff, please. Claudia? It appears that we have two findings to meet tonight. The first finding is text amendment shall be in substantial conformance with the statement of purpose and intent of this Title 18 as set forth in Section 18.02.103. Does the proposed, or do the proposed text amendments meet substantial conformance with Title 18 sections that I just read?
It does. I don't have that section in front of me. It's right over there if you want me to put it into the record, but it does meet that section. If you want me to grab it, I can.
It might be beneficial for the
Sure,
record,
yeah.
please. If you don't have that flagged, I'll read the numbers to you again.
Okay, it's 103. 1802, 103, correct? So does the, can I put this on the overhead? So you have promote public health, safety, morals, convenience, general welfare, preserve and protect environmental quality, conserve and enhance architecture, history, pedestrian orientation. Definitely a strong one on that one, as billboards are typically not geared towards pedestrians. Conserve and enhance character of Reno's established residential neighborhoods. Encourage innovation and quality residential development. Encourage quality non-residential development, and it preserves, protects the character of the community. Facilitate adequate provision of transportation, water, sewage. I would say that one's not applicable. Provide the economic and social advantages gained from the comprehensively planned use of land resources. And I believe that's the only section. Yeah, that is the only section there.
Thank you. The second
You're
question I have then is, our second finding is text amendments shall be in substantial conformance with the master plan. Are the text amendments being proposed in substantial conformance with the master plan?
Yes, they are. The master plan has a strong emphasis on neighborhood design, pedestrian orientation, mixed uses. It does not encourage or discuss off-prem advertising or additional signage along freeways and arterials. So I would say, and it also discusses appropriate design and compatibility of new construction. So I would say digital boards with the lighting would not be compatible with surrounding neighborhoods and development in certain areas. So I would say that this text amendment is in conformance with the master plan.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chairman, I have no further questions. I will reserve my comments for discussion.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? Commissioner Hawkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Claudia?
Yes.
On everything we've been doing with the master plan this last year, is that what Kevin was talking about as far as being in conformance or substantial conformance? Does that mean the new master plan that we're working on?
I believe Commissioner Weisky was referring to the currently adopted master plan, as you would have to find a conformance with anything that's adopted. The Reimagine Reno process is not complete, so that is not adopted at this time. So I would say it is in conformance with the existing master plan. But if you want to look into the future and Reimagine Reno, we had considerable input throughout the public hearing process over the last 2 years to limit billboards, prohibit billboards, ban digital. I don't remember seeing any comments that encourages or supports digital billboards. I may have missed a comment here or there, but I don't remember seeing any comments that support digital billboards.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Weisky, may I clarify that for Commissioner Hawkins?
Yes, please.
Commissioner Hawkins, I was referring to our current master plan because that's the one that's effective and that's the one that is our guiding rules at this time. Although what's being proposed may or may not cover it, we don't know because it hasn't been adopted yet. So just for clarification.
Commissioner Johnson?
Thank you. Commissioner Johnson, Claudia, question on the issue of the banked
Yes.
billboards. Currently, there are places in the code where billboards are allowed to be constructed, which I'm guessing is the construction of one that is a banked billboard.
That is correct. If a company owns or controls a banked receipt, they can find a location that meets the zoning and spacing criteria and use that board to obtain a building permit for a new construction.
Okay, and not to nail you down anything too specific, can you give me a general idea of the type of zoning where billboards would be allowed?
Sure.
First and foremost.
Yeah, so the zoning are the industrial zoning districts, the commercial zoning districts, and they can only be on arterials, and then there's certain spacing criteria from residential schools, the Truckee River, Mount Rose corridor, things like that.
And then in those zones, are there additional restrictions? Are there special use permits required that are kicked in? Are there, is it a blanket allowance in that type of zoning, or are there other restrictions that are placed upon the installation of a billboard within those zones, other than, say, proximity to a school or a residential area, something along
Understood.
those lines?
There are no special use permit triggers as long as they meet the zoning and spacing criteria and have the banked receipt, then they would be able to obtain the permit and construct the sign.
And then the second, I guess the next part of that is there are, if I'm reading this correctly, 82 active banked receipts. That's what's in the staff report. You don't have to look it up. It's what it says right here. Is there, and I believe it's in here, but I got a little turned around in terms of some of the banked receipts information. Situation now, we've had a couple of projects that have come forward over the past 6 months or so, looking at development in areas that currently have billboards on them. I'm looking at the scenario where if that development needs to remove that billboard based on the proposed development, this information eliminates that from becoming an additional banked billboard?
That's
Is
correct.
that the situation?
That's correct.
Currently, however, would they be able to bank that billboard if this text amendment is not approved?
I have to think about all those parameters.
Sorry.
Currently the moratorium does not, in general, does not allow for banked receipts to be issued.
Okay.
The way the wording is in there, if the moratorium didn't exist, but it has for quite a few years, then the banked receipts would be able to be issued, but it hasn't been available for quite a while.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Other questions? Okay, discussion? Commissioner Weisky?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll start or have a discussion, however you want to look at it. This evening before me and us is a recommendation for a text amendment to City Council. It has two findings. And when I look solely at those two findings, it's pretty easy for me to, after discussion with Claudia, to know that we're in conformance with Title 18 and we're in conformance with the master plan. And those are the two findings. With that being said, we've heard a lot tonight about putting the billboard industry out of business. For the last 8+ years that I have sat on this planning commission, all the same billboard companies are in existence today that I've heard over the last 8 years regularly as they come before us. The only ones that aren't here tonight are some of the sign companies, but which is maybe because they're focusing more on on-site displays than digitals. But I can tell you that I haven't seen any of them go away. And nothing that in this text amendment is proposing to change the number of signs that are out there right now, or the ability to do business the way they've been doing it for the last 17 years since a vote was taken in 2000. And it's gone through several different generations. It's gone through city councils, as we've heard. It's gone through court cases. It's still going through court cases. So I have no problem in making the findings that are before us tonight for the 3 items of text amendment. And I will be voting in favor of the recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, other comments for discussion? Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. And Commissioner Weisky, I appreciate what you said, and I think that's, really the heart of what we're looking at here. The interesting thing in my mind is that we've been, we're having a text amendment that's being presented to us. We're not being asked to craft a text amendment. We're not being asked to modify the text amendment. It's being presented to us. There have been a lot of issues presented tonight by both sides of the argument that I think certainly deserve some discussion within the language of the text amendment. But that's not what we're being tasked with. We've been presented an amendment by City Council to review and make the findings. It's not, in my mind, something for us to, I think we all have our own opinions one way or the other as far as this issue goes. But again, I would agree with what you've said, Commissioner Weisky. These are the findings we're being asked to make based on the text amendment that's being presented to us. And beyond that, I think the broader discussions are for, the council that sort of directed this and the courts as it's been worked its way through. So that's my point of discussion, and I'm also able to make the findings in terms of what we're being asked to do.
Okay. I'll just make a comment that I appreciate Commissioner Weisky's experience and knowledge of the Planning Commission's role in the process, particularly one that is as involved and as complicated as this one. And the Planning Commission's role in this instance this evening is particularly focused on the 2 findings that Commissioner Weisky and Commissioner Johnson have been discussing. And it really narrows our scope, and I appreciate the discussion and keeping us focused on those. So with that, if there are no other discussion items, I would ask for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Weisky, in the case of TXT 17-00007, off-premise advertising displays, based upon compliance with the applicable findings, I move to recommend that City Council approve the annexation, text amendment, zoning map amendment by ordinance. I move to approve the tentative map, special use permit, and variance subject to conditions, and I can make all of the findings.
Commissioner Weisky, I'm just going to circle back there. I think we had in our proposed motion some template language there, so we might want to clarify what the motion is from staff.
Yes, sorry about that. It should just be text amendment.
Okay. So I will withdraw that last motion and start a new motion for TXT 007 off-premise advertising displays based upon compliance with the applicable findings. I move to recommend that City Council approve the text amendment, and I can make all of the findings.
Thank you. Thank you for going back on that. Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Commissioner Johnson, I will second that, and I can also make the findings.
Okay, thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. We will move on our agenda to item 7, which is Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Liaison Report. I can tell you that we had a meeting last week, and we heard an item from Sparks. We were given some information about ethics in our roles as commissioners, and we have a meeting scheduled for next week to hear more about the regional plan update. Staff announcements. Just in time. Running all over the place tonight.
Okay, Claudia Hanson, Planning Manager. Announcements I have, your next agenda, the 16th, Sienna will be managing that meeting. I will be out of town that week. And you have quite a lengthy agenda, so get a good night's sleep the night before. And then on the 30th, you will be hearing Stonegate again. I am happy to say we have made quite a bit of progress. It will look completely different when it comes back to you. So you'll have a new staff report, new handbook, and you'll be seeing that at the end of August. And that's all I have at this time.
Mr. Chairman, I have a comment to make to Claudia and to yourself, and ask a question. Our August 16th meeting, we know we have a very full agenda that evening. I have an existing commitment that night that may be over with by about 7 or 7:30. Would that be too late for me to show up and sit in on the balance of the agenda items?
That will not be too late.
Okay, I'll make sure I pack extra clothes that night.
As your chairman, I'm okay with that.
Thank you.
Okay,
That's all.
that's it? Okay. Commissioner suggestions for future agenda items? Commissioner Hawkins.
I'm still waiting to see that green report from
From
Green
Lynn
Lady.
Barker?
Yeah,
Okay,
I'd like to see that either next time or time after. I know she's busy and all, but I did this last year with her, and I still haven't seen the report.
Yeah, and we're working on the schedule on that. She's been out of town.
Okay.
You don't want it on the 16th. You
No,
you
no,
don't want it
that
on the
night-
30th, so it'll
that
probably be in
night's packed.
September.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
other suggestions? Okay, public comment? Seeing none? We'll look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
How about a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you very much.